Hello and welcome to RT Ministries. My name is Duane and this is the Bible study portion of RT Ministries, and this week we'll be doing chapter 13 of Revelation. Now we're getting into a little symbolism here because the beast comes up out of the sea, and we know there's not a beast with 7 heads, 10 crowns. We know all that, so this is symbolizing something. Revelation is not as hard as people think it is. All right, verse 1. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads, and with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. All right. John was looking out at the sea. Now, I believe here the sea represents the abyss. It doesn't represent the ocean. He doesn't come up out of the ocean. It represents the abyss because this beast rises with the power of, it's a demonic power. And he sees, so this whole beast means he sees someone rising to power. Someone's coming up ahead of all the other rulers of the earth. And that's all this represents. I think you can turn this into something it's not. A lot of people look way too deep into this beast and try to decipher every little thing about him. And it says on each head, it had blasphemous name. It said he had horns. Horns are always in the Bible used for power. And on each head a blasphemous name. They had crowns, that means there were rulers, that many rulers at that time, and then each head had a blasphemous name. And Satan has always blasphemed God. He's always blasphemed God through people, through his actions, and these rulers will have nothing to do with God. They'll be ungodly. Everything they do will be blasphemous against God. Verse 2, the beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had the feet of those like a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. All right, stop there. These creatures, the lion, the bear, and all, or the leopard and the bear, the lion, the bear, and all that. If you look back in Revelation, they represented different empires at different times in the world. Now, this beast, instead of being separate, like a lion, a bear, this beast that rises has everything in one beast. It's all formed into one. So that means all the empires of the time is going to be under the control of the person that's rising. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. So now Satan himself, the dragon, gave the beast his power. Remember, Satan's the ruler of this world? He has power. He controls all those that are blind. Anybody who's not saved, he controls them out there. So he gives this person who's rising his power. So the Antichrist is charged by Satan himself. Verse 3, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now one of these heads, one of these rulers were kind of singled out and rising above all the rest. And this one seemed to have a fatal wound. So I don't know if Satan, the Antichrist himself, I don't know if he's killed or if it's a fake killed, and he tells the whole world he was killed and he come back from the dead. Because here it says seemed to have a fatal wound. But the fatal wound had been healed. And the whole world was astonished and followed the beast. So whatever the injury was to the head or to the person, he was healed from it. And it had to have been something great because the whole world was astonished. And then it followed him. This is one of the acts during the tribulation where the people are going to start following this one person who rises above the rest. 4, men worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshiped the beast and asked who is like the beast, who could make war against him. Now, if men are going to worship the Antichrist, who they're really worshiping? They're worshiping Satan himself because the Antichrist is empowered by Satan. And then people are asking, who can be like, because this person had to arise out of the rest and be powerful enough to rise out of all the rest. And then there's people in the world asking, who can make war against him? Who can come against the beast? That they're running after the one with power. And people in this world naturally run after the one good leaders. Look at how many people went after Hitler. He rose to power, and then all of Germany and a lot of Europe followed him. This person's going to put Hitler to shame. He's going to look like 1,000 times the leader Hitler does. So people will follow him, and they're asking who is stronger than the beast? And they'll follow somebody like that. Especially somebody who's apparently came back from the dead or the fatal wound was healed. 5. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise his authority for 42 months. Now God give the Antichrist free reign to do whatever he wanted to do. He's open to do what he wants to do, and he blasphemes God. He exercises authority for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. The tribulation, the last 3.5 years of the tribulation is going to be terrible. The first 3, all of it's going to be terrible, but this 3.5 years, the Antichrist can do whatever he wants to do. And I'm not going to go too deep into that because we're going to be reading about what he's going to do later on. 6. He opened his mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. And Satan has always slandered God. He's always slandered God's people. It even slanders heaven itself where God's people dwell. There's people now that do that. There's people that slander me. There's people on the comments that slander God. There's people that I've heard slander everything about God, his people, heaven, and they want to party in hell and they want nothing to do with God and they blaspheme him. So it happens now, but it'll happen at a greater rate then. Verse 7, he was given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them. And he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. This is the Antichrist now. He's given power to make war against the saints. He had free reign to do what he wants. And what do you think Satan's going to do to all the saints that's living at that time? He's going to slaughter them. He's going to go after them. It says, and to conquer them. And he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Right now, the Holy Spirit's holding back he's holding back sin. Once the Holy Spirit don't hold back the Antichrist anymore, he's going to have free reign and he's going to rise to power quick in the whole world. Right here it says, he was given authority over every tribe. It's every continent, every country, every person, language, and nation. So he rules the whole world. He has authority over the whole world. 8. All the inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, whose names have not been written in the book of life. So everybody on the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the book of life. Now there's a book of life that God has everybody's name written down in this. In Revelation 19, I believe he said if whosever name is not found written in the book of life will be thrown into the lake of fire. So this is a book to have your name written down in. You're in trouble if it's not. So everybody who isn't saved will follow the beast. Said written in the book of life, belonging to the Lamb that was slain from the creation of the world. The book belongs to Jesus Christ, right? He knows who are his. He said, I know who are mine, right? He said he wouldn't lose one, and he knows his sheep. Jesus said, my sheep know my voice. So anybody who knows Christ knows him. Personally, they're in his book of life. They're known by God. So, it's a book your name better be in. 9. He who has an ear, let him hear. Now, this verse 9 is a little window in. He doesn't. Most of the time, Jesus said let he who has an ear, let the church. He always mentions the church with these verses, but here he doesn't. That means this is one of the indicators the church isn't here during the tribulation. He just says, whoever has an ear, let him hear. Right? And if you look at the 7 churches of Asia Minor in the beginning of Revelation, he said, he who has an ear, let him hear in the churches. So, the good indicator we're not here. 10. If anyone is to go into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed with a sword he will be killed. Now this is saying if you are destined to die, you will die. If you are destined to be in prison and then die, you will go. There's nothing that's going to stop it. You can't fight it. You can't run from it. Whoever's alive at that time who's destined for this will basically just put their hands back and go into prison or put their hands back and die. So there's going to be a lot of death. And there's going to be whatever you're destined for is going to happen to you. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of the saints. So this is going to happen to the saints. The saints at that time need to be patient and endure it. Whether they're into prison, whether they're going to be slaughtered, they got to endure it. It's going to happen. You can't run. Persecution you can only run so far from. In this day you won't be able to run. If you can't buy or sell without that mark, where are you going to go? False prophet. That's what we're going to talk about next. There's another one with the Antichrist. There's a leader of all the false religion that brings people together and brings them under the Antichrist. And this is this person. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. Now this one was smaller in power than the Antichrist. He only had 2 horns. Like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. So Satan he spoke like Satan himself. Satan empowers him. He's demonically empowered. 12, he exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound has been healed. This beast, this smaller beast coming up as a false prophet, he's the one who gathers the people and tells them to worship him. Now, many through history thought this was the Pope, because he was kind of the leader, so to speak, of the Christian world, which we all know the Pope himself is blasphemous, but the Pope, it could be a Pope, I don't know. I don't know what, a lot of people think it is the Pope, I don't know. There is a beast, and I don't know who he's going to use as a religious symbol to bring all the religions together. Do you ever notice everybody around the world wants unity now? They want to coexist. Christ doesn't coexist with anybody. This false prophet will try to get, will not just try, he will get all religions together to worship the beast. Could be a pope. It's a good guess. It could be a pope. We don't know. 13. And he performed, that's the false prophet, and he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of men. All right, so this false prophet can call fire down out of heaven. Have you ever seen anybody call fire out of heaven? I haven't, but if somebody could, he could get a lot of followers. People will be astonished and they'll follow him because they think he has some great power. So there's going to be miracles and things done in the end times that you can't explain. You can't explain away. They were actually supernatural. So, 14. Because of the signs, right? Because of what he could do, fire out of the sky and other signs, it's plural, signs, he's done other things. Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image. He deceived everybody, then he ordered everyone to set up an image, which is against God, right? No graven images, no other gods. He ordered them to set up an image and honor the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Now here's a little more about that wound. He's wounded by the sword. Whether the sword is just could have been, the wound now could be a gun, it could be a knife, could be whatever, but he was wounded by it and yet lived. So all the people of the world make an image and honor the beast. Some people say, I don't believe it, and I've heard people say, I don't believe that, but people are pretty fickle out there. The sinners out there will follow anyone that can lead them. Idolatry is all over the world, so this isn't that hard to believe. 15. He was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast. Now apparently this false prophet sets up an image, the one he made. He has the power to give it life. He gives breath to the image of the beast so it could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. So whatever image the false prophet came up with, and then they told everybody else in the world to make their little images, but whatever image he made, he gave it breath so it could talk. Kind of hard to believe, right? Not that hard, the scripture says it. So it could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. How could one little idol cause everyone in the world to... how would they know if you didn't worship the beast? I've been thinking about this, and we don't really know. We don't know everything. This is just a guess. I think, what goes into every house in America? What's in every house? Everybody's tied to at least the computer, and I don't know if it has something to do with the computer. I don't know if something through the computer they can tell what you're doing. It's just a guess. I don't know. Somehow this image that talks has the ability to know everybody in the world that they're following the Antichrist. Now we don't know. It says all who refuse to worship. So they have some way, out of some way you got to sign up or no, but they said whoever refuses to worship to be killed. People worship an idol that talks, right? A lot of people would. Again, it's a guess, and I don't know if it has anything to do with computers, because computers themselves aren't evil. I had a guy the other day tell me that all computers are evil. Computers aren't evil. Computers can't be evil or good. They're just an inanimate object. They can be used for evil or used for good, and somehow, over the whole world they know. And again, the world's getting more connected all the time. If they want to find out something about you, they could. Pretty easy now with satellites and the computer and all that. They can find you and know what you're doing. That obviously in the future will get more evasive. So, 16, he also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave. That's everyone. Rich, poor, free, slave, everyone in the whole world, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead. The image forced people to have allegiance to the beast. He caused everyone to have a mark on their right hand. It's pretty easy, right? There's a day coming where somebody's going to have a mark on their right hand or their forehead. God's given you enough information to know where it is. It's a mark on your right hand or your forehead. 17, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right, if you got this mark, you can go on about your life. You can buy, right? You can go down to the grocery store, you can fill your tank up, your car up with gas, you can buy a car, you can travel, you can do whatever you want, because there's commerce, you know. But if you refuse the mark, you can't buy or sell. What are you going to do? You can't run from that. That means you can't buy food, you can't buy gas, you can't buy anything. You can't pay your taxes, you can't have a job. If you have a house, you'll lose it. Whatever possessions you do have, you will lose it because you can't buy or sell. So, there's people out there that can't live for Christ in good times. How are they going to live for Christ in the bad times? Because if you don't carry that mark, you'll be singled out. There's no way to hide. If you can't buy or sell, that means you starve to death. How are you going to eat? So, it's a terrible time. This is where you're going to have to make the choice. If you take it, then you're doomed. If you don't, you're going to die for the Lord. So there's people in good times that can't live for the Lord. I don't know how you expect to do it in bad. But if you're living for the Lord now, you can live for it in bad times too. Then it says this mark is the name of the beast or the number of his name. And there's been many books and many people have guessed who this is. If you lived in 1942, you probably would have thought it was Hitler. And a lot of people thought it was Hitler. He rose to power so quick and he almost took control of all of Europe. It would have been a good guess in that day. I would have probably thought too that he was the Antichrist. But there's going to be somebody that puts to shame Hitler. Hitler was a small vision or a small example of what the Antichrist is going to be. The Antichrist is going to put Hitler to shame. He's going to rise to power above the whole world. And Hitler tried to take Europe. He didn't take it. He almost did, but he didn't. Antichrist will take the whole world. So, 18 is calls to wisdom. Now, I thought about the number of the beast, the 666, and apparently I don't have the wisdom to figure it out because some point in history somebody's going to figure this out. It's calls to wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast. That means think about it, calculate it, think about it. For it is a man's number. His number is 666. Now, this represents a man, the Antichrist. Someday somebody will figure this out. I've had multiple emails and questions about this 666, and I don't know. I've thought about it, and I try not to read too many books about this because people go way too deep into this. I don't know. It represents a man. That's all I know from Scripture. It represents a man. Someday somebody will figure this out, though. All right, that's chapter 13. I think people get bogged down in Revelation too much and symbolize and go into like the lion's claw and they try to tear apart the claw, what each claw means. As simple as we can get chapter 13. John saw somebody rise into power who controlled the whole world. He was wounded, he was healed, he rose to power because that was one of his biggest things. He rose to power because he was healed. People thought he was something. There was a false beast that come up and rose to power. He did miraculous signs, and he brought all the people of the world together to worship the beast. And then the image and the false prophet come up with a system. You can't buy or sell unless you take allegiance. Make allegiance and take this mark on your wrist and your forehead. You can't buy or sell without it. The whole picture of 13 is just someone, the Antichrist, rising to power and controlling all commerce all over the world and blaspheming God all the way. And when he's slaughtering the saints, and he actually openly blasphemes the God of heaven and claims himself in the end to be God. So it isn't that complicated. Now, go back into chapter 13 and get a study Bible or get a concordance, and there's a lot more you can get out of all the empires, the lion and the bear and all that stuff. Dig in a little deeper. This is just an overview. Thanks for tuning in, and next week we'll take chapter 14. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.